Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Welcome to our award ceremony for year 6, term 1. A special welcome to our parents who are online. Today, we recognize and celebrate the achievements and incredible growth of our students. Our students have worked extremely hard, and we acknowledge their efforts and celebrate their success. Please stand for the national song. I invite Jasmine and Antonio to lead in the national song.
Land of soft, fresh breezes, over the trees so fair, with our Creator's glory reflected everywhere. O sea of palest emerald, merging to darkest blue. Whene'er my thoughts fly Godward, I always think of you. Dear verdant island set in blue Caribbean Sea, I'm coming very soon. Oh, beauteous isle to lead, although I wandered far. My heart enshrines thee at homeland fair Cayman Isles. I cannot thee forget.
Thank you. I'll invite a few of my year 6 elite students to lead in the song of the month.
Kindness, kindness, oh, whenever you find this, you will see the world's a better place. Kindness, kindness, oh, whenever you try this, you could bring a smile to someone's face. Well, it doesn't take much, and it doesn't take long. No, it doesn't cost a thing, no. And there's no way to do it wrong. You can try it anytime. You can plant it where you want, and you can grow it in your heart, then give it out to everyone. Kindness, kindness, oh, whenever you find this, you will see the world's a better place. Kindness, kindness, oh, whenever you try this, you will bring a smile to someone's face. And you can put it in your words, in everything you say, in the little things you do, all throughout the day. And you can share it with your neighbor, and you can teach it to a friend, and you can show your mom and dad how the kindness never ends, yeah. Kindness, kindness, oh, whenever you find this, you will see the world's a better place. Kindness, kindness, oh, whenever you try this, you could bring a smile to someone's face. So if you see someone who's had a bad day, and you'd like to try and make them feel okay, just give a little kindness in your own way, because a little bit of kindness Kindness, kindness. Oh, whenever you find this, you will see the world's a better place. Kindness, kindness. Oh, whenever you try this, you could bring a smile to someone's face. Kindness, kindness. Oh, whenever you find this, you will see the world's a better place. Kindness, kindness. Oh, whenever you try this, you
Someone's face. You could see was a better place.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I will now break down the awards for today. Certificates will be awarded for academic attainment and progress. The Attainment Award consists of Expected Standards or Greater Depth Standard Award. The Expected Standard Award means that the student is working at the current year 6 level. The Greater Depth Award means that the student is working above the expected level for year 6. Attainment will be recognized in the following areas: mathematics, science, reading, PIRA, writing, GAPS, which is grammar, punctuation, and spelling, Spanish, music, computing, physical education. Progress awards will be given for progress made between June 2024 and December 2024 in the following areas: mathematics, reading, and GAPS. Other special awards will be given for school involvement, attendance, and the STAR Award. School involvement awards will be given to students who have represented the school in extracurricular activities in Term 1. Perfect Attendance Award will be awarded based on regularity and punctuality, which means the student was never absent, never late, and never left school early. The STAR Award, acronym: Safe, Trustworthy, Achiever, Responsible, Respectful. Students are awarded points for exemplifying STAR behavior. The STAR Awards are as follows: Platinum Certificate, 60 merit points; Gold Certificate, 45 merit points; Silver Certificate, 30 merit points; and Bronze Certificate, 15 merit points. I will now invite the Year 6 teachers, starting with Mr. Erskine, for their awards. And Ms. Descent will be handing out the awards for us. Thank you, Ms. Descent.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. May God bless you too. Okay, I'm asking that you hold your applause for the end of the presentation. First recipient is Jonathan Barrett. Jonathan receives awards for attainment at the greater depth level in math, GAPS, Spanish, and ICT, expected standard in reading, science, music, and physical education, perfect attendance, Star Bronze certificate, and school involvement in football and spelling. Aubrey Bodden. Aubrey received certificates for attainment in Spanish at the greater depth level, expected standard in math, reading, GAPS, science, PE, ICT, and music, school involvement in netball, Star Bronze certificate. Kenya Bush. Kenya attained greater depth standard in PE, expected standard in math, GAPS, Spanish and music, progress in GAPS, school involvement, netball, choir, perfect attendance. Richard Chow. Richard received certificates for attainment in Spanish, PE, and ICT at the greater depth level, expected standard in science, gaps, reading and music, progress in reading, star bronze certificate. Ethan Connolly. Ethan receives awards for the expected standard in music and physical education. Madison Ewers. Madison receives certificates for attainment in GAPS, Spanish, and ICT at the greater depth standard, expected standard in reading, writing, science, PE, and ICT, progress in GAPS and reading, school involvement, and a star bronze certificate. David Fraser. David received certificates for attainment in GAPS, music, PE, and Spanish at the expected standard, progress in GAPS, and school involvement, football. Christian Garcia Artiles. Christian received certificates for attaining greater depth standard in Spanish, expected standard in PE and music, and school involvement, football. Tyra Jade Hay. Tyra received certificates for attainment in GAPS and Spanish at the greater depth standard, expected standard in math, reading, writing, science, music, and ICT, progress in reading, school involvement in the choir, star bronze certificate, perfect attendance. DeMarcus Jennings. DeMarcus attained the greater depth standard in Spanish and ICT, expected standard in maths, reading, science, GAPS, PE, and music, progress in reading and maths, perfect attendance. Ajay Lewis. Ajay received certificates for attaining expected standard in music, Spanish, and physical education. Ali Moore is absent today, but I'll read her awards nonetheless. Ali Moore receives certificates for attainment at the greater depth standard in GAPS, Spanish, and ICT, expected standard in math, science, writing, reading, music, and PE, progress in GAPS, school involvement, and a star bronze certificate. Julia Miles. Julia received certificates for attaining greater depth standard in GAPS, Spanish, and ICT, the expected standard in science, reading, music, and PE, progress in GAPS and reading, star bronze certificate. Dylan Pearson. Dylan attained greater depth standard in GAPS and ICT, the expected standard in reading, science, and maths, progress in GAPS, reading, and maths. Hallie Powell. Hallie attained greater depth standard in GAPS, PE, and ICT, expected standard in science, writing, reading, maths, music, and Spanish, progress in maths, school involvement, and a star bronze certificate. Brixton Telford. Brixton attained greater depth standard in Spanish and ICT, the expected standard in GAPS, reading, science, maths, music, and physical education, progress in reading and maths. Josh Thompson. Josh attained greater depth standard in GAPS and expected standard in science, math, Spanish, music, and PE, progress in math, star bronze award. Ariane Thompson Miles. Ariane attained greater depth standard in GAPS, Spanish, and ICT, expected standard in science, reading, PE, and music. Valencia Walters. Valencia attained greater depth standard in GAPS, Spanish, and music, expected standard in reading, science, ICT, and PE, progress in reading and maths, school involvement in choir and netball, and a Star Bronze Certificate. Liz Clearwood Paniagua. Liz received awards for greater depth standard in GAPS and Spanish, expected standard in PIRA, PUMA, maths, science, music, PE, ICT, progress in GAPS, reading and maths, Star Bronze Certificate. Would you give the students of 6 Erskine a round of applause, please? Thank you. Miss Vines.
Good morning. We'll now do the awards for 6 Clarke. Ethan Basil for attaining greater depth standards in GAPS, PIRA, PUMA, computing, and Spanish, and expected standards in writing, science, music, and progress in GAPS and PUMA. Lily Bennett for attaining greater depth standards in GAPS, Spanish, computing, and physical education, expected standards in PIRA, PUMA, writing, science, and music, progress in GAPS, PIRA, and PUMA. Lily also received an award for perfect attendance. Zaire Bunthorne. Zaire received certificates for greater depth standards in GAPS, expected standard in science, computing, and physical education, progress in GAPS, PIRA, and PUMA, and he also receives an award for perfect attendance. Madison Campbell, for attaining greater depth standards in GAPS, computing, Spanish, and music, expected standards in PIRA, PUMA, writing, science, and physical education, and progress in GAPS, PIRA, and PUMA. Madeline Cato, for attaining greater depth standards in music and physical education, expected standards in GAPS, PIRA, science, and Spanish, progress in GAPS and PIRA, and she also receives an award for her involvement in netball and choir. Castle da Costa, for attaining greater depth standards in GAPS and Spanish, expected standard in PIRA, PUMA, writing, science, and music, and for progress in GAPS, PUMA, and PIRA. Sage Dorkin Archibald, for attaining greater depth standards in GAPS, PIRA, computing, Spanish, and physical education, expected standards in writing, science, and music, and progress in GAPS, PIRA, and PUMA, and she also received an award for perfect attendance and her involvement in netball and choir. Zachary Forrester, for attaining greater depth standards in GAPS, PUMA, computing, Spanish, and physical education, expected standards in writing, PIRA, science, and music, progress in GAPS, PIRA, and PUMA, and Zachary also receives an award for perfect attendance and his involvement in football. Jayla Francis, she's absent, but I'll still read hers. For attaining greater depth standards in GAPS and Spanish, expected standards in science, computing, music, and physical education, progress in GAPS, and she also received an award for her involvement in choir and netball. Aaron Frederick Jr., for attaining greater depth standards in GAPS, PIRA, PUMA, computing, Spanish, and music, and expected standards in writing, science, and physical education, and progress in GAPS and PIRA. Miranda Hines, for attaining greater depth standards in Spanish, music, and physical education, expected standards in GAPS, PIRA, science, and computing, and progress in GAPS and PIRA, and she also received an award for her involvement in football and choir. Tetsu Hudson, greater depth standard in Spanish and physical education, expected standards in GAPS, science, and music, and for progress in GAPS, and he also receives an award for his involvement in football. Ariana Matthews. Ariana receives certificates for greater depth standards in GAPS, PIRO, computing, and Spanish, expected standards in PUMA, writing, science, and physical education. Nathan Morgan Hurlston. Nathan receives awards for greater depth standards in Spanish, expected standards in computing, music, and physical education, and for progress in GAPS. Scarlett Ramirez Vega. She's absent. However, her awards, she attains greater depth standards in GAPS and Spanish, expected in PUMA, science, music, and physical education, and for progress in PUMA. Gabriel Rankin. Gabriel received awards for greater depth standards in GAPS and computing, expected standard in PIRO, PUMA, science, Spanish, music, and physical education, progress in GAPS, PUMA, and PIRO, and he also receives an award for his involvement in choir. Hadassah Rivers. Hadassah receives awards for greater depth standard in Spanish, music, and physical education, for progress in GAPS, and Hadassah also receives an award for her involvement in football. Amari Rosales Swaby. Amari receives award for greater depth standards in computing, expected standards in GAPS, music, Spanish, and physical education, for progress in GAPS and PIRA. Amari also receives an award for perfect attendance. Faith Shern. Faith receives award for greater depth standards in GAPS, expected standard in PUMA, science, Spanish, music, and physical education, progress in GAPS, PIRA, and PUMA, and she also receives an award for her involvement in choir. Lizanne Thomas. Lizanne receives award for greater depth standards in GAPS and Spanish, expected standards in PUMA, science, computing, music, and physical education, progress in GAPS and PUMA, and she also receives an award for her involvement in netball. Harmony White. Harmony receives award for expected standards in GAPS, PIRO, science, computing, Spanish, music, and physical education. Kadian Wood. Kadian received award for expected standard in Spanish, music, and physical education. Please give Six Clarke a round of applause, and we'll invite Mrs. Elliott.
Thank you. For 6 Elliott, I will start with Gemma Andrade. Gemma receives attainment at the expected standard in music and physical education, progress in reading and mathematics, and Star Bronze certificate. Jasmine Beckford. Jasmine receives greater depth standard in GAPS, PIRA, and computing, Spanish, and physical education, expected standard in PUMA, writing, science, and music, progress in GAPS, reading, and mathematics, school involvement, choir, and football, perfect attendance, and the Star Bronze certificate. Melania Bodden. Melania receives award for expected standard in computing, music, physical education, progress in GAPS and reading, school involvement, football, Star Bronze certificate. Kylie Brown. Kylie is absent today. Kylie receives award for greater depth standard in Spanish and physical education, expected standards in GAPS, music and computing, and progress in GAPS. Liam DaCosta, he's also absent. He receives award for greater depth standard in GAPS and Spanish, expected standard in PIRA, PUMA, science, computing, and music, progress in GAPS, reading, and mathematics, and he also receives a Star Bronze certificate. Ania Ebanks. Ania receives award for Greater Depth Standard in Spanish and Physical Education, expected standard in GAPS and music, progress in GAPS and reading, school involvement, football, and Star Bronze certificate. Cadence Ebanks. Cadence receives award for the Greater Depth Standard in GAPS, PIRA, and Spanish, expected standard in PUMA, writing, science, music, physical education, and computing, progress in GAPS, reading, and mathematics, Star Bronze certificate. Leilani Edwards. Leilani receives awards in the Greater Depth Standard in Spanish, expected standards in GAPS, PIRA, PUMA, science, music, physical education, and computing, progress in GAPS, reading, and mathematics, school involvement, choir, and netball, and Star Bronze certificate. Thailand Hudson. Thailand receives Greater Depth Standard in GAPS, PIRA, Spanish, and computing, expected standard in PUMA, writing, science, music, and physical education, progress in GAPS, reading, and mathematics, Star Bronze certificate. Jaden Kirchman. Jaden receives award for expected standard in Spanish, music, and physical education, progress in GAPS, reading, and mathematics, school involvement, cricket, and Star Bronze certificate. Adrian Lewis. Adrian receives award for Greater Depth Standard in Physical Education, expected standard in music, progress in GAPS, school involvement, cricket and football, and Star Bronze certificate. Caleb McFeel. Caleb is not with us today, but he receives award for Greater Depth Standard in Physical Education, expected standard in Spanish and music, progress in mathematics, school involvement, football, and Star Bronze certificate. Antonio Sanchez Matos. Antonio receives award for Greater Depth Standard in GAPS, PIRA, computing, Spanish, and music, expected standard in PUMA, writing, science, and physical education, progress in GAPS, reading, and mathematics, school involvement, choir, and football, Star Bronze certificate. Harmony Shern. Harmony receives award for Greater Depth Standard in GAPS, PIRA, computing, and Spanish, expected standard in PUMA, writing, music, physical education, and science, progress in GAPS, reading, and mathematics, school involvement, football, and choir, Star Bronze certificate. Neve Solomon. Neve receives award for Greater Depth Standard in GAPS, Spanish. Also, expected standard in PUMA, music, physical education, and computing, progress in GAPS and mathematics, school involvement, choir, Star Bronze certificate. Sarada Subaran. Sarada receives award for Greater Depth Standard in Spanish, expected standards in GAPS, PIRA, music, physical education, and computing, progress in GAPS, reading, and mathematics, school involvement, choir and football, star bronze certificate, and also perfect attendance. Andre Taylor. Andre receives award for Greater Depth Standard in physical education, progress in gaps, school involvement, cricket, and football. Madison Thames. Madison receives award for Greater Depth Standards in GAPS, PIRA, physical education, and Spanish, expected standard in PUMA, writing, science, music, physical education, and computing, progress in GAPS and reading, school involvement, choir and netball, star bronze certificate. Kylan Webster. Kylan receives award for Greater Depth Standard in GAPS, physical education and computing, expected standard in PIRA, PUMA, writing, science, music, and Spanish, progress in GAPS, reading, and mathematics, school involvement, cricket and football, and star bronze certificate. Jalea, welcome. Jalea receives award for attainment at the Greater Depth Standard in GAPS, Spanish, physical education and computing, expected standard in PIRA, PUMA, music and science, progress in GAPS, reading and mathematics, school involvement, choir, and bronze star certificate. Jacob Wood. Jacob receives award for expected standard in GAPS, PUMA, music, physical education, and Spanish, progress in GAPS and reading, star bronze certificate. Catalea Smith. Catalea is not with us today, but she receives award for expected standard in physical education and music, and also a star bronze certificate. May I have a round of applause for 6 Elliott? Thank you. So I just want to say congratulations to all the Year 6 students. You have worked hard, and today we recognize your hard work, and I challenge you to work just as hard or even harder for term 2. Ms. Dayson? Okay, all right, so all the best for term 2, and what's the motto for JCPS again? Yes, all right, awesome, thank you. Okay, wave to your parents. Okay, thank you.